Okay, in this video we're going to learn about a congruent statement. And this is what a congruent statement looks like. It's got two triangles and then it's got three letters to tell us which ones are congruent. Okay, so I can tell a lot of things. If they're in the corresponding positions, they're congruent. So for example, G and I are congruent because they're in the same location. So notice G and I have the same little angle mark. Okay, H and Q are congruent because they're in the same location. Notice how they have the two angle marks. And then R and I are the same, and notice how they have three angle marks, okay? So that's how you see what angles are congruent from a congruent statement. It also tells you the sides. So if you look at the first two letters, GH, it's right here, they gave it 1 mark, is going to be the same as IQ, which is right here, so they gave it 1 mark, okay? If you want to look at the middle and the last letters, HI, it's right here, it had 2 marks because it was congruent to QR. Over here had 2 marks. And then you're going to have to do a little bit of jumping over. So G and I is congruent with 3 marks. I and R are congruent with 3 marks. So basically a congruent statement tells you all the angles that are congruent and it tells you all the sides that are congruent. Okay? So now let's look at a problem. It wants us to complete the congruent statement. So down here, it gave us GI, and it wanted to know what it was congruent to. So here, or GH, sorry. Here's GH. To figure out what it's congruent to, you can use the picture, you can use the statement. Order definitely matters in this. So G was over here. Its corresponding letter was I. H over here's corresponding letter was Q. Okay? So IQ is the congruent to GH, okay? So again, you can use the image for that if it's got some marks, or you can use the congruent statement. So on number 2 over here, it wants me to know what XY is congruent to. So I'm going to use this congruent statement, and X was in the middle, and U was in the middle over here. So I'm going to start with a U, and then Y was the last letter over here, and the last letter over here was UT. So go vols, UT. Again, you could look at the picture and see that XY had the 2 marks, and then UT over here had the 2 marks. So the only thing is you could not say TU, so make sure you're using your congruent statement up here to help you out with the order. Okay? Alright, why don't you try 3 and 4 on your own? Press pause and then we will go over the answer. Number 3, I got KLT. Little bit thing that you could notice how LKM is the exact same how it is up here. So again, it would be K angle KLT. Or you could notice that L, K, and M are all a part of this side, and you wouldn't look at this K in this triangle. On number 4, again, you've got W, a Y, and an X, which are all kind of in both. So I noticed a Y, W, and an X was this first side over here. So Y was the last number, so G was the second. W was the first number, so X was the second. X was the middle number, or middle letter over here is W. Okay? Alright. On 5 and 6, let's look at this. So CA, notice C and A are both in this triangle over here. So C corresponds with K, and then A is going to correspond with A. Okay, so CA is the exact same as KA. Alright, lastly 6, angle L was the exact same as angle D. Okay, L, D. Alright, so that is how you finish off congruent statements. Now, you can also go a little bit further, and we can write a congruent statement that matches the triangle. So you're going to have to pick your favorite letter that you want to start off with and go from there. So in this triangle up here, I want to go from triangle RST. So I went from having 1 mark to 2 mark to 3 mark, and I need to make sure that my other side matches up. So I'm going to start at this one, then go to this one, and then go to this one. So R, V, W. Again, lots of different answers to this because you can put them in any order you want. Just make sure that they are matching up, okay? So why don't you try 8 and 9 on your own, press pause, and we will go over them. Number 8, I started off with I because it had 1 mark, and then I went to H for 2, and then E. And then saw that I did that in the same triangle, I, H, and J. Okay, Over here, a little bit tricky because you had two M's, but one had 1 mark and one had 2. So I started off in this triangle and I had M, L, W. And then you just had to make sure that you had L, M, and N. So as long as you have any order of this, you are right. You could have them flip-flopped the other way and you would still be right. Okay, the last thing you are going to do, you need to mark the angles and the sides of each pair of triangles to show that they are congruent. So I just need to make a bunch of marks. So first off, I'm going to make sure that G and U have the same marks. So mark 1 on G, mark 1 on U. Okay, I need to make sure I and V have the same marks. So I'm going to give them 2, and then give them 2, and then H and H will give them 3, 1, 2, 3.
Can I have your attention, please?
Lastly, you need to mark the sides that go in between them. So between 1 mark and 2 mark, I'm going to give that side 1 mark. So I just need to make sure the other side has it. So between 1 and 2 mark, I'm going to mark that side. Between 2 and 3, I'm going to give it a 2 mark. So between 2 and 3, a 2 mark here. And then between the 1 mark and the 3rd mark, I'm going to give it a 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 mark and the 3 mark, give it a 3. Okay? So try the rest of these on your own. Press pause and we'll go over the answer. What I got for 11, 12, and 13, again, you could have different marks than me. Just make sure that the corresponding letters have the same amount of marks, and then the corresponding sides have the same amount of marks, okay? So those are congruent statements. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can practice on IXL.